Howdy, everybody. Today is Tuesday, April 9th, 2024, and the time is 5:30 p.m. We're here for the regular session of the Coppell City Council. We do have a quorum present, so I'm calling the meeting to order. We will be convening into executive session in the first floor conference room. At the end of the executive session, I will come out and announce work session, at which time the public will be invited and encouraged to join us. Thank you very much. Howdy, everybody. The time is 6:11 p.m. We've adjourned from executive session and we're moving into work session in the first floor conference room. The public is invited and welcome to join us. Thank you.
Babies.
Okay. Yeah. I'll go analog. It'll be all right.
Ken, do you get to do the work plan? That's why she didn't come. That's why she didn't come. She didn't deal with us.
How does it feel to be let down to dry? What's that? How does it feel to be let down to dry?
We're going to talk tomorrow. No, she's got a good reason to not be here.
Is that? All good.
Are you starting to work? Good to see you, sir.
Sound like this.
Remind me that my Coke is in the freezer.
Oh no, we're setting a timer. We're setting a timer. I put a 15-minute timer on, so I
Okay,
think
there
that
you go. Thank
explodes.
Well, we've got fire here. In case there's an explosion.
All right, the time is 6:14. We're here for the work session. We've got two agenda items. The first one is discuss the agenda items. We're going to discuss agenda items, then we're going to talk about the work plan. Sorry about that. Anybody have any items on the agenda?
Consent agenda?
That's part of the, yes, sir.
I do.
Yes, Jim.
Consent agenda E. I had a couple of questions.
So she knew she was ready. She jumped up.
Jessica's always ready.
Jim has some questions for you.
All righty. Okay. Red eye?
I'm ready.
Okay, cool. Okay, so with respect to this contract, I didn't see any metric for determining the percentage of the work completed to support the monthly invoice amount. I mean, do we have any, I mean, like on the 407, the scope of services, we're paying a lump sum fee, but then under the contract T's and C's on paragraph 4, we're going to be invoiced monthly based on the percentage of work completed for each task. Were there pre-assigned percentages assigned to each task, or how did?
Sure. So where this stems from is Mr. Patel was our original project designer when he was employed with Olson Studio, and so he's just transitioning this to his own personal landscape architecture firm. So he's pretty well versed as to what the percentage completion was when he was working on it with Olson. So he's kind of just scooping that up and bringing it over to him. So he's kind of assessing where it got left with Olson and then picking it back up with us. So we were very, very close to 100% design before we terminated Olson. So we're very close there. So a majority of what he's going to do is going to be in the bid phase support and construction documents. So that's kind of where we are. So it's kind of more of a lump sum because the percentage completion is pretty close.
And so he just determines in his own, based on his own experience, like what percentage a particular task that he's completed represents of the whole?
Right, and he's extremely communicative with me personally, so we stay in direct contact based on what the deliverables are and should be at each stage. So that's kind of where, when we left Olson, I knew exactly where he was. And so I think this is a fair assessment of completing a design.
Well, I was glad that it,
What we may do is we'll just do a memo, percentage of completion.
Yeah, we can have him break it up
Okay.
differently if you'd like.
yeah, just a little, so I'm glad it stayed with him. I
Agreed.
liked everything he's done to date. My questions are not in any way a concern or criticism. It was just, I haven't seen a contract, a payment T's and C's set up like this, where it's a lump sum payment, but then we just get reported back on the percentage.
Yeah, had he not already started, there
Yeah.
would have been a percentage breakdown in it, but since he was so close, she
Okay.
just went and said, those things are probably gonna come together, quite frankly, so.
They're kind of going to come on top of each other, and so
Yeah.
we're going to really end up more than likely paying it as a lump sum, maybe broken out into two. But I'll still provide a memo with some more details.
So we're not paying the lump sum up front.
No,
No,
absolutely
it's
not.
after the work's complete.
The lump sum, by lump sum, it just means that the total absolute amount we're going to pay for
Yes.
all the agreed upon tasks is that amount.
Correct.
And then he gets paid monthly according to the percentage of each, of the total that he invoices us for.
Correct. And
Okay.
that's based on his communication with me, which is the reason we really wanted to keep him on as the project designer. It's his level of engagement with this project is second to none. So
Yeah, I agree with that.
yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, that's all I had.
Thank you. Any other agenda items? John?
I have a quick question on F.
F. Mattia?
Yes, happy.
Just curious as to, it says I guess that there was a feeling of needing to test the market, but why all of a sudden? Was there a particular reason why, or, because you've had this company for what, 15, 20 years, you said?
That's right. We've been with the prior, or even our current benefits consultant for a while, and it's typically within the insurance industry about a 5-year time frame to go back out to bid. It's been 9 years. Just when I came on board and started recognizing and the need for different things and assessing where we were, we decided it would be best to go ahead and test the market and see what we needed and what we could get through our benefits consultant in support of all of our benefits design efforts.
There wasn't anything in particular that caused you to test the market, right?
Not any
Nothing
one
alarming.
particular thing,
Okay.
no, sir.
And did they bid also, or no?
They did, yes.
They did, okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, just,
Bob.
our procurement officer likes us to go out every 5 years too, so what Mattia was doing was in kind of compliance with our new procurement officer, like every 5 years to rebid those things so that we don't get stale.
So it was actually done 5 years prior?
Okay. Yes.
Thank you. That's all.
Anybody? Anything else? All right, let's move on. Item B is a discussion regarding the mid-year work plan. Mr. Collins, you could sit down.
I will, I'll stand. So,
We were having an internal debate on whether he was going to stand or sit.
right.
I thought he was
So-
going to sit.
I stand most of the day, so I'm comfortable standing. Thank you, Mayor, Council. So the purpose of this agenda, typically Tracy would be delivering this update. She had a family emergency, so I'm gonna fill in for her tonight. Purpose of this agenda items provide a status report on our current fiscal year work plan. You recall, council asked for kind of a more regular check-in on where we were as we progress through the work plan, so that's what this item is tonight.
We just happen to be at about the halfway point. Is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct?
We're about the halfway point. I'm not going to cover every item that's on our work plan, but I'm going to hit some of the biggies to kind of let you know where we are as well as what to expect, as we're going to be bringing some things to you for further discussion. I'm going to start in Pillar 4, explore incentive program for refurbishing older homes. You recall you gave the thumbs up to move forward with the grant program for rehabilitation of dwellings. That grant application actually goes live on May 1st. So, and we're, based on I think the questions that we've received, we expect a really good response to that program. Next is implement village concept. And we will be bringing you a discussion and a status update on April 23rd around the village concept. We won't be coming asking for really any additional action. We are moving forward with the village concept. This will just be a check-in and an update specifically on the village concept program. Pillar 5, move Kaleidoscope to Old Town and partner with the Arts Center on some cultural performances. We are moved forward on that. We've moved the Kaleidoscope. We've got those spring performances happening. So that's in progress. Parts completed, parts in progress. The Old Town study. The plan is to bring to you, I think you know this, in June, a broader discussion on Old Town. That will allow us to get through the spring, our spring events down in the Old Town area, such as the Fun, Food, and Grooves. And in the interim, we are also going to be having discussions regarding the parking as well as digital signage, which relates back to Old Town and kind of notifying people what's happening at Old Town. So those discussions are slated to happen during the 5th Tuesday this month, so April 30th. So those aren't the broader discussion about Old Town, but they are pieces that relate back to Old Town. So we'll have those discussions during the 5th Tuesday. The next is proposed ordinance changes to incorporate items discussed at the roundtable. A couple things there. We are looking at changes to parking and the truck court requirements for our commercial buildings and our warehouses. If you drive out there, right, some of the truck courts aren't heavily used. This would give the owners and operators of those facilities potentially the opportunity to restrict those for vehicle parking instead of just truck court use. We already brought changes to signage related to some of the dual facing commercial properties. You'll recall that. And then the plan is to bring these ordinance changes or proposals to you during the work session in June, and then the plan would be for council to take action in August on those changes. Next is implement innovative transportation networks. One is, I will note a correction that we will be making to the work plan because it says complete Royal reconstruction. I'm sorry to say, Royal reconstruction will not be completed this fiscal year. However, we do expect to start Royal reconstruction this fiscal year. So there'll be a lot of conversation around that as we get closer. Obviously, conversation around bond sale, things like that. So, but that will begin this fiscal year. Let's see. The last work plan item that I wanted to discuss or update you on is Explore Autonomous Vehicle Program. We actually have two items that are sort of duplicates around that. And I believe this whole council is aware, maybe not, but this was a couple of years ago. The city proposed a project to Dallas County under their major CIP program. So they do a bond program every 5 years related to transportation. They were really interested in more innovative projects. So we proposed a project as a $500,000 project to them to do kind of an autonomous circulator down in the business district. What we are talking to them about now is adjusting that scope so that the first thing we do under that heading is actually do a feasibility study, because we do have some data from the LIFT program to kind of give us some idea of what the bus stop, kind of what those trips look like into the city of Coppell business area. And so that'll give us, we think, some idea of what that circulation would look like, where we would place stops, and what some of the economics around an autonomous type service, circulator service, might be. So that's what we're working, going back to the county to kind of get that started. We already have a scope and proposal from TTI to help us on that study. So that's the update, and that concludes my update on the work plan. As I said, I wasn't intending to go through every work plan item, but those are some of the big ones. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I just want to comment that I think this is incredibly helpful just to keep us in the loop about what's going on, and honestly, keep the citizens in the loop as well. So I appreciate the update. I think it's I feel like we get these snapshots at the beginning and the end, like here's what we're going to, and then we don't see the update. So thank you guys so much for sharing the information, and these projects seem really cool. So I'm really excited about how this is going to continue to progress.
I'm going to ask a specific, has much been occurring on the pop-up business support?
I don't have an update on that. I can get you one. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Jim?
So this says the complete dog park reconstruction, so the design phase is 95% complete?
Yes, sir.
Any idea about like next steps or timeframes?
We are we're in a mini pause at the moment. We're working with the church on parking. There, we have shared parking, and so we are. And the dog park relies on that parking and access to that parking. So we're just on a really short, we're not at 100%, so we're not stopping Tignall, who's the designer on it, but we are looking at the overall property to make sure we don't go build something and then we're stuck and don't have a parking option. We're still hopeful we can work through this little pause with the church, but we are. But the next phase, to answer your question directly, the next step would be finalize designs, bid the project out, receive bids, and then award the bid. Typically, that bidding process or letting process is about a 2-month process.
Okay.
So, like I say, we're continuing to talk to the church, and in that same time frame, we will finish the plans and continue to assess. Do we go ahead and bid it? There's some cost and some things involved in getting it bid.
Sure.
So we're we're just in a little bit of a hold right now.
Is there, as I recall, we're also looking at rebuilding and redoing the park.
Yes.
And the children's equipment there. Is there any
That's still in
thought
plans.
about doing like a holistic approach to that entire property?
Well, that's the look that we're doing right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Because if we're gonna have to build parking, then it's gonna change the complexion of that whole, and then we actually have property that the city purchased for a second pump station, that is on the north side of, Starleaf, so that property is also in play with this.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to get ahead of it, but it just,
No. Well,
just,
it may end up being a positive
Yeah.
that there was a pause.
yeah, I think we'll be able to work through this. I'm hopeful that from a community standpoint, that we're able to work this out with the church.
Well, if we ended up having to take a larger, more holistic approach and combine it all together, I don't think that would be a negative, so however it works out.
Thank you.
I got another question. This may be more for Kim. Retha is back here somewhere.
She's down.
She left?
Track her down.
Oh, no, that's okay.
She was.
Oh, I thought okay. I was going to ask about the non-traditional ways to monetize city asset services and facilities, so that.
Yeah, that really is, everything is really on the table. And we've talked about some ideas with parks, with our elevated storage tanks. We have communication companies that come to us regularly wanting to hang antennas on our tanks. So it's the balance between the community use as an amenity and creating revenue off of those assets. And so it is something we are continuing to look at and evaluate and bring those viable options to
Did
council.
that include any P3 public-private partnerships?
We have talked to vendors about P3 options.
I sat through a 4-hour session on Friday on that, and it was, I'm not sure for a city our size that it's that easy to do. Arlington was the host, and they were showing off all of that they've done, but they'll be bringing in 3 or 4 or 5 different parties, and everyone collaborate on a big project, and it takes a huge amount of work to get that done. So anyway. Okay. Any other questions? Well, thanks for the update.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
It's hard to believe that we're halfway through the year already. And with there being no further work before this work session, it is 6:33. We will be moving into the regular session of the city council meeting at 7:30.
Dawn Carroll. Dawn Carroll. Oh my God.
Good evening, everybody. The time is 7:30 p.m. and we're moving into the regular session of the Coppell City Council. We probably do have enough seats for everybody if you'd like to be seated. Just as a reminder, if you're wishing to speak during the citizens' appearance or any of the public hearings, you must sign one of the registers outside the council chambers and list your home address. This evening, for our invocation, we have Dr. Patty Weber from our Allies Interfaith Group here to give that invocation, and then we're going to recite the Pledge of Allegiance, so please remain standing. Dr. Weber?
Thank you. Lord God, we live in challenging times. So many places in our world are rocked with war and strife. We pray for peace for all of those places, even as we appreciate the beauty and safety of Coppell. We ask your continued blessing for our city and its leadership. Coppell is a city filled with diverse cultures, faiths, and races. All of us are enriched by the opportunity to share our lives and our community with those who are different from us, and even while doing so, we learn that we are not so very different. We ask you to bless and guide our leaders as they give their time and energy to create and manage a community that cherishes and values all of our citizens. God of all names and every faith, we ask this in your holy name. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. We do have a couple of proclamations tonight, and I'd like to ask that the library team with Alexis Welburn, please join me at the front. I've often said that my favorite committee to interview for when I was on interviewing member of the City Council was the Library Board, because the library personnel are the most passionate people I've ever met. So thank you for being here with us tonight. Whereas libraries provide the opportunity for everyone to pursue their passions and engage in lifelong learning, allowing them to live their best life. And whereas libraries have long served and trusted as institutions for all members of the community, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or socioeconomic status. And whereas libraries strive to develop and maintain programs and collections that are as diverse as the populations they serve and ensure equality and access for all, and whereas libraries adapt to the ever-changing needs of their communities, continually expanding their collections, services, and partnerships, and whereas libraries play a critical role in the economic vitality of communities by providing internet and technology access, literacy skills, and supports for job seekers, both small businesses and entrepreneurs, and whereas libraries are accessible and inclusive places that promote a sense of local connection, advancing understanding, civic engagement, and shared community goals, and whereas libraries are cornerstones of democracy, promoting the free exchange of information and ideals for all, and whereas the Cosby Library and Community Commons has been serving the city of Coppell in all these ways and more since 1974, and whereas libraries, librarians, library workers are joining library supporters and advocates across the nation to celebrate National Library Week. Now, therefore, I, Wes Mays, Mayor of the City of Coppell, do proclaim the week of April 7th through 13th, 2024 as National Library Week, and in witness thereof, I've set my hand and caused the seal of Coppell to be affixed this 9th day of April, 2024. So thank you very much. I would like to add that my mother was a librarian, so it's a very special place for me as well. Council, I read a lot of stuff here, but I bet somebody has a little bit more to add. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to say I appreciate all of you volunteering, and not too long ago I was at the Carrollton State of the City, and I was talking to the library board, and I was talking to them and said, all the program that we have, the human library, the rental and neighbors, helping neighbors, community builders, right? Yeah, meet your neighbors. I was telling them all the program we had, and they were they didn't even know what that was. So they said they're going to start looking into it and try to implement those kind of programs. So it just kind of shows you that all the things that you do is really above and beyond, and I appreciate all the things that you do.
Councilmember Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. I think about the vision that we have in Coppell, and I think about our Vision 2040 plan. And if you look there, the first pillar of our plan is perpetuate a learning environment. And the main goals of those are to diversify learning and enrichment opportunities available in Coppell, promote a knowledge-sharing environment, build a lifelong learning environment for Coppell, and establish Coppell as a laboratory of learning. And I really do see our library as the central hub for those things, and the enrichment that you provide our community is amazing, and just the safe place where people can meet and share ideas and enrich their lives. So I want to thank you guys for all of you do. Thank you for what you do for Coppell, from the youngest preschoolers that come in for activities to our seniors. You guys play a vital part. So thank you for all you do.
Well, thank you. Did you have a few words to say?
First, I want to thank the City of Coppell, the Cosby Library. We know how loved we are and appreciated in this city. We have numerous people coming in every day. We have very heavy users who come and see us on a weekly and daily basis, and they support everything that we do. As mentioned, we are celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. We just came off of a very strong spring break showing with lots of fun programs. And on May 18th, we're going to have our summer reading kickoff with lots of fun programs throughout the summer for you all to enjoy. I will not be there. I have someone else I'll be needing to attend to. But everyone at the library is super excited for the summer and everything we have prepared, and we just can't wait to see you there.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Hey, thank you very much for your support and all you do for our community. Thank you. Item number 7 is a proclamation designating the month of April as Volunteer Month. So could we have Lacey McKinney and her crew please come down? Yeah, I was thinking it was the whole group, so I started to hesitate doing that.
So I would love if they could come down and stand with me, all of the volunteers that are here. Is that okay if they come?
That's fine.
All All right, volunteers, come on down.
I'm going to move aside to make room. Good, how are you? We already shook hands. How are you?
And it says volunteer. That's good.
You passed me by in the car, didn't see me the other day. Hey. Hey. All right, I'm going to cover up some of the ones in the center here, and I think I didn't say that. And I think if it were fair, probably everybody in the audience would be down here as well. However, whereas the entire community can inspire, equip, and mobilize people to take action that changes the world, and whereas volunteers can connect with local community service organizations through hundreds of community service groups, and whereas individuals and communities are at the center of social change, discovering their power to make a difference, and whereas experience teaches us that government by itself cannot solve all of our nation's social problems, and whereas National Volunteer Month was established in 1991 and has grown exponentially each year, and whereas during this month all over the nation service projects will be performed and volunteers recognized for the commitment to service, and whereas our city's volunteer force is a great treasure and is vital to the city of Coppell's future as a caring and productive community. Now therefore, I, Wes Mays, Mayor of the City of Coppell, do hereby proclaim April 2024 as Volunteer Month in the City of Coppell and urge all citizens to volunteer, inspiring, recognizing, and encouraging people to see out imaginative ways to engage in our community. In witness thereof, I have set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Coppell to be affixed this 9th day of April 2024. So thank you very much. Council, do you have anything to say? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Earlier, I just made a suggestion to Mayor saying put all this proclamation at the end of the agenda because we would have all of you at the staying, right? Because we don't usually get this many people here. But I do want to say, volunteers, you guys make Coppell what it is. And every time I go outside of Coppell, I brag about Coppell, not only about the things that we have, but because of the volunteers like you that make the city a better place to live. So I just want to say thank you for all you do, the time that you contribute to. I know it's making a difference to someone's life. So again, thank you, and hopefully you will continue to make our city a better place to live. Thank you.
Councilmember Hinojosa Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you. I mean, volunteering takes time and commitment, and each and every one of you and those who aren't here, I just want to say thank you. At the cornerstone of our community and what makes it such a great place is really our volunteers, at the library, at the Corps, at our parks, and our fire department, our police department, up here. It's just volunteers really are what make this a great place. And I love the fact that we are never short of volunteers and people keep coming back and coming back. So thank you so much for being involved. Thank you for your time and your commitment, and just thank you for being a part of this community wholeheartedly.
Now, the handoff of microphone and proclamation is always hard, so here, I'm going to hand you that. Okay. And then I want to say that I'm really looking forward to this Saturday, which is Neighbors Helping Neighbors. And so I'm going to be out there. So did you have anything to add to that?
Sure, I will. Hello, everyone. I just want to say I'm just a small part of this big puzzle that is here. We have many volunteer leads that work for the city that also work with you all, so I'm sure you know their faces and names. And so just on behalf of that work that they do to work with you all, I just want to say that we appreciate everything that you do, and we're just going to keep going, and we're going to keep moving on with you all. And so we just want to say thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, as the Mayor Pro Tem said, you guys are going to stay to the end of the meeting, right?
He's just gonna call. Well, outside the door somewhere. Somewhere. On call.
All right, tonight we have a presentation from a citizens group. This is item number 8 concerning expanding our pickleball facilities. And Mayor Candy Sheehan is here to make that presentation with a small group of her friends.
Good evening. Build it and they will come. The city built Wagon Wheel and they came. So first of all, I want to thank you all, Mayor, City Council members, for having us this evening. We're excited to be here. If you are here in support of pickleball, please stand. Woo! Thank you all for coming. I probably knew just a handful before pickleball, and now I have so many more new friends, and can't wait for you guys to join us out at Wagon Wheel, because I heard you've played at Chicken Pickle now, right? Was it fun? It's a good time. Okay, we're excited now that you know more about pickleball. First of all, I want to be clear before we start our presentation that we have gone through a lot of steps to be here. We've dotted our I's and crossed our T's. Barb has personally met with the 3 top officers of the Tennis Association in Coppell, and she's made it very clear that we do not want to take over tennis. And they understand that. They are in complete support of our presentation. In fact, 2 of the 3 officers now play pickleball only. So there's no more tennis for them. But we do know there's tennis players. So I just want to be clear that we have done that part of what we promised, actually Mike Land. And I also want to thank Chris Lomborg. He made the presentation. He asked us to do it because he was supposed to be out of town. But thank you, Mike. Thank you, Chris, for all that you did for this. And his statistics for the presentation actually came from Wagon Wheel staff, correct? Okay. So build it and they will come. They came, and they keep coming. We are overwhelmed with pickleball players, and so we are here to ask you for more pickleball courts. We have focused on Wagon Wheel, but we are open to pickleball courts anywhere. Historically, the city has built state-of-the-art park facilities and programs for our residents. We have Wagon Wheel, we have baseball and soccer fields, we have softball fields at Andy Brown Park East. We have the best special events and festivals in our parks, and we have the most beautiful art center of any city around. But a lot of these facilities have had to go to a second phase or a third phase, right? I don't know how many of you were here. I know Kevin would have been when baseball fields were at Middle School West. That's where my kids played youth baseball. Softball was over at Andy Brown Park East, and now we've got the beautiful complex at Andy Brown Park West. The baseball fields at Wagon Wheel, when they were built, were better than none. They were tops of the line. And so we have kept giving our residents what they ask for and what they need. And we have been, as a community, been enjoying all these activities with our kids. And now we basically have pickleball that so far at Wagon Wheel is mainly adults. And so we'd like to keep providing activities, healthy activities, outdoors and indoors to our new friends and pickleball players. Wagon Wheel is a wonderful example of the Vision 2040 goal, healthy and active lifestyle. But we have outgrown the number of courts at Wagon Wheel. Just like youth baseball, youth soccer, and youth softball, we need more courts. So this is the start of our presentation. All right. On this slide, and I know all of you have seen this before, it was in your packet, so hopefully you've looked at it. There's a lot of data on here. It's also on, it's online for those of you in the audience. You can find it in this agenda packet. So what we really want to focus here is the growth between 2022, 23, 52%, and then, 86%, and then to 52%. So the growth is not only nationally, but we've seen it in Coppell as well. Whoops, hold on. Currently, we have the 4 dedicated pickleball courts, 12 tennis courts. 4 of the tennis courts are double lined to make 8 pickleball courts. So is that all clear? Does anyone need kind of understand that part? Okay, it's kind of confusing. And that's where we basically have all our court reservations and our open play. Open play is the most fun you can ever have. There is a lot of wait time, but it is a lot of fun, and you're playing all sorts of different people, different kinds of players. So these are the days and times that we have pickleball, and it looks like they're going to be adding another weekend morning, which we're delighted about. Current state, the courts are available to rent 60 hours a week. You can read all this. We are delighted to say that we recently heard there is a new Wagon Wheel director. Hopefully the director knows some about pickleball and not just tennis. We look forward to meeting him or her. Here we're going to talk a little bit about the revenue, the benefits to financial benefits. You can just read it all or...
Well, one thing I'd like to interject here. So we know we're not supposed to really talk about revenue because cities don't talk about revenue, but we thought we'd throw that as a benefit. We have an open play that has exploded, and so we decided to take the opportunity to show you, just on some level, what the revenue could be, what the revenue is actually from the open play with very conservative numbers. So if we're using the assumption of 300 plus players every week for open play, which we have more than that, but we're using a very small assumption of 300 people. So that's almost $1,000 a week that we are getting, $4,000 a month. I know that sounds like chump change, but it's a big deal to Wagon Wheel. The other assumption is that pickleball court rentals are at least $75 a week. That actually is much higher, but we wanted to use a low number just to give you kind of a flavor of what is going on with the revenue opportunities. So if you take those low numbers, the $7,000 a month is a great opportunity for us that we didn't have 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think those 75 courts are just for the designated pickleball courts because they didn't keep count for the hybrid courts. That's correct, right? Correct. So that's really for 4 courts. This data is for 4 courts. And here we are, the 4 dedicated pickleball courts, 8 dedicated tennis courts, and the 4 hybrid courts. We're going to kind of keep coming back to this because there's no data on if those courts are reserved for pickleball or for tennis. So all our statistics don't cover 8 courts. And personally, those are the courts I play on more. So I play 6 days a week. I'm not usually there on that hybrid court. And so my stat for all my playing with my friends aren't even on this.
Focus on 2023 and look at that number and the increase.
Right. Just the pickleball. That's just 4 courts. That's just for 4 courts.
I know.
And compare that to tennis courts. When we play pickleball, there's a lot of tennis courts. Now, I'm not trying to diss tennis, but just saying what we think we can do is add more lined courts for pickleball to the tennis courts. That's going to be one of our asks. So pickleball, open play, it is unbelievable where these people come from. We love them all. They are really a fun group. But we can be standing in line at 8:45, wanting to get in at 9 o'clock. There's Roanoke, there's Sanger, there's Fort Worth, there's Mesquite. People come from all over for our pickleball, and it's because it's a well-run program. We have great facility. Really nice people. We don't really never have any fights or anything. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And it's cheap. It's cheap. It's $250 for residents for 3 hours, and it's $350 for non-residents. So you can go to South Lake and pay,
Well, we can't play there.
Oh, well, we can't play at South Lake anymore. They have a membership only membership only. But at Unity, where are some of the other charges for open play?
The typical charge for a open play, the minimum that I go to, which I go all around different places because Wagon Wheel does get pretty crowded, is $5.
Okay, $5 out of residency, out of a.
No,
You're not a citizen in that city, wherever it is. Yeah, $5. So we charge $350, and we have over 120 people come. So we do have a lot of downtime, but it's still very social. Okay, the pickleball offense, and this is really, a lot of this is kudos to Barb Schmidt right here. She started so many of these, the fundraising tournament, the auction. Wounded Warrior was great fun. Our friend Lori and I played together in that. The league play is very popular. It's amazing how many people don't live in Coppell and they come and play in our leagues. In February, King and King of the Court, beginner lessons, drills. Our drills and lessons are fabulous. We have really good instructors. We have one right here, Alan Gardner. We're so excited that you've joined Wagon Wheel and support all the players, me included. Thank you. Okay. The wait list at the in leagues. There's a wait list because we have so many people coming, and it's amazing that so many citizens are being displaced by out-of-city players. Not sure that's what we've always wanted for city facilities, is for our citizens to be on the wait list and have out-of-city non-taxpayers get in front of our citizens who are paying the taxes. More events at Wagon Wheel. There's league play during the day. So open play and other people, citizens who make court reservations have to work around these leagues. So we had 704 people playing in the spring. It's 176 courts. I guess they rent them for about 3 hours. They get the reservations. And they get reservations before citizens. So these these leagues that are out of our city, they book courts before citizens can book courts. we have a lot of really good players out of Wagon Wheel, and they play in national tournaments and tournaments all over. Chris, Nancy, Todd, Peter, there's so many good players, so we should be proud of the players we have here. And we want to keep supporting them and having them play in Coppell.
Well, they're representing our city.
Yeah, they're representing our city wherever they play. Okay, this is back to Wagon Wheel. To Open Play. This is just pictures of people waiting around to play. We can only have 8 people play on the designated, or let's see, 4, 8, 12, 16 people play. So we have probably 20 people right here waiting to play. And we have that on other 2 more tennis courts that have 4 pickleball courts. If this gets confusing, let me know. Sometimes I confuse myself.
The wait time, that's a big deal.
Yeah, the wait time is 30 minutes per game. And if the game lasts anywhere from 10 to 18 minutes, and you're waiting 30 minutes to play. But there's 120 of us that do that every Saturday. We are delighted to say that this muddy area is getting turf next week. We are so excited. It's been like that. It's like that all the time. So we're thrilled about that. I would have one ask about that with the bleachers that are there in the corner. Last summer, we had a shade structure up there. We did have a pickleball player who had played in the heat one day, a personal friend of mine, and I saw him sitting under the shade, and he went home and he died with heat exhaustion. And he had been sitting under that shade. He always wore a floppy hat. I think at least Mr. Walker knows who that I'm talking about. So, we play. We don't really have the opportunity to play indoors when it's hot. So we're still going to play when it's 100 degrees. And a big ask would be to really give us some shade with these bleachers. We did have big fans, 1 or 2 big fans last summer, and we hope we get those again. But shade is essential, and especially for the Wednesday afternoon, evening open play starting at 4:30. It'll be 105, 106. When people get off work, they've been in air conditioning all day, and they come out and they play, and it's just not as safe as it could be with shade. So look at this. Short term, we've already fixed the first 2. We're excited. We have a director, and we fixed the mud pit. Now we're asking for the double line, more tennis courts, particularly for peak times at pickleball open play. And we need to raise that non-resident fees to help augment the revenue for our facility and hopefully allow our citizens time to reserve the courts too. Long term, we want to build more dedicated pickleball courts, and we want to make pickleball a higher priority on building new facilities. We've asked this of the park board too to raise some of these on their priority list, so we're coming to you as well. And this is the vision. This is what we want you to start thinking about on your 5-year budget. This is 2040 or sooner, because some of us may not be around in 2040. I think I probably was. Here is a town that Chris found, and he can talk more about it. It's just north of Atlanta. With city funds, and for $650,000, they built these 12 pickleball courts. They're covered, but they're open at the side. So you're covered for rain and the sun, but the air is circulating in there, and you don't have the wind. So they hold several tournaments every year, which pays for the facility. So when they have open play, it's free for everybody because the tournaments pay for everything. So they built the first one. It was so successful, paid for itself. Then they got the second one. So just a couple of more points. I was looking at the fiscal year 23-24 annual operating budget. And once again, I wanted you to just think about the stats that were there for court reservations. They added the tennis and pickleball court reservations together. We need to separate those out. We need tennis separate from pickleball because you can see the increase in what the usage was from the previous slide. So we need pickleball separate from tennis. They did that not only for court reservations, but for class participants. We do have a lot of participants in our leagues. I guess the city tennis leagues are at the high school. So tennis has another facility. They can use the high school. We can't. They won't allow pickleball lines on there. So I just want you to kind of think about that as you go through the budget. We also definitely want more priority of pickleball in the budget for the next 5 years. And just a couple of things I noticed from our mayor's State of the City report. Thank you, Mayor. Very good. Several statements just, really made me think of the growth of pickleball. And, one thing that stuck out for me was planning for the future of Coppell is essential. Think of all the up-and-coming people we're going to have playing pickleball. We've got a whole room full here, but we've got hundreds that are playing. Right now, they're playing in Louisville because it's raining and the courts are wet. So we have an indoor facility that we go to in Louisville. The city needs to address the issues and challenges of the future, the challenges of finding, hopefully, more land so that we can build some of these facilities like this one right here or indoor courts. And you kind of mentioned it today, Mayor, in your proclamation or speaking to one of them, how you love how citizens here want to learn and grow and how we are never satisfied with the status quo. And we're not satisfied with the status quo. We want more courts. We agree with that. So our ask is more courts and having dedicated pickleball courts and lined tennis courts are needed every single day at Wagon Wheel.
No, that's great.
So that concludes our presentation. So we are here for questions. Barb, me, Chris made the presentation. Feel free to ask us anything.
Mayor, we've had a little change in our policy. We typically don't engage in questions. You're welcome to reach out to any member of the council or myself at any time. And to give you an idea, today I did a promotional video with Mayor John Huffman of Southlake on their pickleball courts. And if I had known they were closed, I would have picked someplace else. So thank you for educating me on that. We do appreciate your perseverance and your passion. And believe me, your requests have not gone unheard. And we know that they're working their way through the Parks and Rec, your long-term desires. And as you already stated, several of your short-term have already been done, and the others are doable, I think. So thank you very much for your time tonight.
Okay.
Just to let you know, there are also 5 more people that have signed up to talk. Mm-hmm. So we have our citizens' appearances after this. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, our citizens' appearances, and we do have 5 people that have signed up to speak, so just a quick little set. Persons wishing to speak must sign the register and list your home address. Presentations by individual shall be limited to 2 minutes each. Your time may be extended for an additional 2 minutes with the approval of the majority of the council members present. Persons signed up to speak will be called in the order that they signed up. No personal attacks by any speaker shall be made against any member of the council, mayor, individual, group, or corporation. There will be no comments or deliberations from the City Council due to the Texas Open Meetings Act. Once the timer sounds at 2 minutes, the city secretary or mayor will cut in and make the request to the council if they would like to extend your time for another 2 minutes. Our first person signed up to speak tonight is Mr. Todd Storch. Todd?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone else. Todd Storch, 739 Hammond Street. I know each and every one of you, and I have not played pickleball with any of you, but I do have plans. So I want to talk about two words in pickleball. I want to represent not only everybody here, but I want to represent what pickleball means to the city of Coppell in growth and in its social ability to bring people together. Pillar 2 and Pillar 3 are very, very important when it comes to the social aspects of what pickleball does, fostering an inclusive community fabric and also enhancing the community oasis experience. On the growth standpoint, it really supports our Pillar 5 of Vision 2040, which is create business and innovation nodes. There is opportunities for even more business. Candy talked about this really word called revenue, and we have a great opportunity for revenue with pickleball, even at a public facility. So personally, this is really, really new to me. I started playing pickleball a year ago in March, and that was at a family gathering. I immediately sought out Wagon Wheel as a place to go, and thank the good Lord for people like Barb, like Candy, and like all the other volunteers that Barb and others put together, welcome me and the hundreds of people that have come to Wagon Wheel to learn how to play. In a year, I've gone from a beginner to an avid intermediate advanced tournament participant in both mixed and men's doubles. And I also believe in the business of pickleball. I'm a current advisor to 2 national pickleball manufacturers that have gear nationwide, and also a pro that does global coaching. And we're working on coaching and facility consulting in China, Germany, England, and India. So this is far-reaching from our backyard. Have one more minute, please. I'm actively drilling and practicing and playing in 10 different DFW facilities and 4 private courts at people's homes. So this expands all over Dallas. From a growth standpoint, let me highlight it's the fastest growing sport in the nation that you saw. Thank you, Chris Lomborg, for great stats. Did you know that the National Professional League is actually based here in Dallas? It's called the PPA. It merged with another one called MLP, and it's now called the Ultimate Pickleball Association. They are based here, along with major tournaments. There's the National League for seniors that rolls through this town. There is collegiate focus that the NCAA is getting involved, and a brand new World League for World Pickleball is starting this year with major expansion plans. So from a social aspect, like many of us that have new friends in pickleball, we'll put like a PB next to their name in our phones when we save them, or maybe we'll say pickleball. I did a quick search because I put a PB in mine. In 1 year, I've had 170 new friends because of pickleball. They are all ages. It's ages 23 to 74. Every ethnicity and all genders. Thank you for the work that each of you do to make our city amazing and helping continue a bold and strategic action plan for Vision 2040. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. Our next speaker is Ms. Nancy Yingling. Oh, I forgot to tell Todd, but name and address for the record.
Sure. Nancy Yingling, 606 Clifton Court, and hello to many of my former colleagues up there. So what I want to say is I'm not going to reiterate everything because I think everybody said it very well. Todd brought in a bunch of the pillars. We spent a lot of time doing the 2040 plan, and I think it hits a lot of marks on those pillars. I agree with everything Candy and Barb have said. One of the things, I'm a certified coach as well, so I've had the opportunity and pleasure to go out and coach some of our firefighters and soon hopefully some police officers, and have actually gone to some of their tournaments to support them. So, it's becoming, this is not a trend, it's not going away, it's going to be here for a while. So I just want to say, let's go for pickleball. I'd like to get a couple of you guys or all of you out on the courts. anytime, let me know. I'd be happy to show you the game if you're not familiar. We did try to get you out there one time, and you did come out, but it was a little rainy. We got kicked out. You know, the rain had other ideas. But anyways, we just I've been doing it for 3 years. As soon as I retired from my post up there, and I couldn't tell you that it's a wonderful experience. It keeps our community, you know, we say a community for a lifetime. You know, anybody can play this game at any level, and it keeps our community active, and I can't think of a better sport. At 60 years old, I feel like an athlete again. So, you know, let's go for pickleball, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Stephen Harris. Name and address for the record, please.
Thanks. Stephen Harris, 128 Oak Trail, 46 years old. Just for the record, we're just stating our ages. So I have 5 kids, by the way, 4 in the school district. First point is I endorse everything that they've said. Totally great. Big supporter of pickleball. Second point is the demographics in our community, the age demographics are changing. You look at CISD, like the kindergarten numbers are going down, okay? So like this is a demographic that matters, and even that, my kids love going to Wagon Wheel and they have a hard time getting a court. Number 3, the reason like I'm here is because I went last week, I think it was, to the Parks and Rec Board, and they kind of point the finger this way, that it takes an act of the city council to do some really, really basic things, like short term. Long term, I get it, like budget and that stuff. So I want to talk about some of those things that they said we really need your action on. So this was really all already in the presentation. So number 1, higher fees for non-residents. The actual number, it's a 50-cent delta. That's the number, because non-residents get a discount if they buy a punch pass. So they pay 50 cents more. That's it. Like low-hanging fruit here is just raise the fees on non-residents. Super easy, and you could do it tomorrow, apparently, if you have the city council's buy-in. Number 2, don't allow reservations for non-residents, or at least make it a non-refundable fee for non-residents. So that's number 2. Number 3, increase the hours. If you increase these fees, you'll offset having someone there at 6 a.m. Like in the summer, it's super hot, right? And so like let us open at 6 a.m. Like our facilities are world class. They are amazing, and we can only use them from, I think they're opening an hour earlier, so it's going to like 8 a.m., but then they close at 9. So just widen the hours. Why? We could do that tomorrow. We could do that. And then the last point is just paint more lines. If for no other reason, optionality. Paint more lines on the tennis courts. And apparently it takes an act of the city council to do this. But please, please listen to us. We love you all. We thank you. We love pickleball, and thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Chris Kotak. Kotak? I'm sorry. Chris, please state your name and address for the record.
Chris Kodak, 261 Suzanne Way. I started playing pickleball about 1.5 years ago, and it was in the fall, and I was told that in the summer, Wagon Wheel would open at 8 o'clock. It didn't. They also would have tennis camps, and they had staff available that they opened before 9 o'clock, but we would have to congregate at 9 o'clock. We weren't allowed in the building until 9, and by the time, if we get an hour-and-a-half reservation at 10:30 in August, July, it is really, really hot. We need more time. We will come at 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. 9 o'clock is too late to open up the facility that's already staffed. So I agree with everything else that everybody has said. Pickleball is not going away, and we aren't either.
Thank you very much. Our last speaker is Chris Longborg.
Chris Longborg, 963 Condor Drive, and I've spent a lot of time looking at all the numbers and all that. A couple points I wanted to just augment. All those temporary nets were bought with funds out of the auction from our tournament. So, we've got people that are willing to, even spend money here beyond, the nominal fees that we get on the courts. So, because it's that important to us. But I guess the main thing I wanted to emphasize is I was the one that went out to Opelika, participated in a tournament there, and saw what it could be. These courts are kind of like the surface of Chicken and Pickle. Now, these aren't brick and mortar around the sides, but there was no court that you couldn't be at least adjacent to it and be an observer if there was a tournament held. And these courts are just phenomenal. And they weren't, I didn't think, terribly expensive to build. For $650K, the first one, the second one was about $1 million is what I understand. But 24 courts, you can really launch a really big tournament. The biggest facility up to this point, I think, is out in Rockwall. Oasis has about 36 dedicated courts. They used to be all tennis. Now it's all dedicated pickleball. So there are a lot of facilities that are going up, but most of them are commercial. And this would be just, a dream of ours to have something on the magnitude of what those pictures show right there. So anyway, I just hope that you guys could consider something that broad and that big for our city, because it is only going to grow from here. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments tonight. That is the end of our citizens' appearance. Item number 10 is our consent agenda. The consent agenda is routine in nature and is generally enacted in one budget. These items have been previously approved for the budget or past council action. Any item may be pulled and considered separately. Full descriptions are available on the screen. We do have items 10A through 10G tonight. Council, do you have a desire to pull any item or discuss any item? Councilmember Carroll.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve item number 10, A through G.
Have a motion and a second by Councilmember Nevels. All in favor?
Walker, Hinojosa, Smith, Carroll, Nevels, Junn, Hill, in favor. None opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you very much. Moving on, we have a series of public hearings tonight, and persons wishing to speak during these public hearings must sign the register and list your address. You will be called to speak in the order that you have registered. Public hearings are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Item number 11 is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing and ask Mr. Steer to read the item into the record.
Mayor, Council, good evening. This is a public hearing to consider approval of a zoning change request from SF12 to PD 315 SF12 to allow for a 11,994 square foot fire station and associated parking for Fire Station 5 located at 157 South Moore Road. The property here has been owned by the City of Coppell since 1984 and served as a fire station until it was converted to the Coppell Theater in 1999. The theater moved to its new location in Old Town in late 2021. The building on Moore Road has been underutilized ever since. The discussion of having this site be converted back to a fire station emerged with the assessment that was done in 2017 and updated in 2022. As you remember from previous discussions, this location was chosen by the City Council because it's between Station 2 and 3 and is in an underserviced area and will allow for a better service. In addition, this option allows for the city to utilize existing property versus having to acquire additional property, and will utilize the existing personnel and equipment. The existing 7,068 square foot building will be demolished, and a new fire station is proposed to be constructed. The new building is proposed to be 11,994 square feet, to have an office and meeting space, a kitchen and dining room, a laundry room, lockers, sleeping quarters, IT, a storage area, a decontamination room, an airlock, a shop area, a lobby, 2 apparatus bays, and a covered patio. The station will house a shift commander, a captain, and up to 5 firefighters per shift. There are 15 parking spaces proposed on site, with 12 behind the fence and 3 for visitor parking in the front. The fire apparatus will utilize the existing driveway on Moore Road that's shared with Austin Elementary to access the apparatus bays. We'll have a large on-site drive approach from the apparatus, or to access the apparatus bays, and we'll have a large on-site drive approach from the apparatus bays to Moore Road when going on calls. There will be proper traffic safety in place that will prevent cars from blocking the drive and alerting the public of the fire station. There will be fire station warning signs, do not block signage for this section of road, and striping noting the same. An 8-foot tall wood fence is proposed to screen the northern portion of the site, and a 6-foot tall ornamental metal fence with shrubs is to provide separation on the western portion of the site. There are variances being requested. Let me go back. The first is to allow parking in the front yard. That's where the 2 circles are. This is very tight, and there will only be 3 visitor parking spaces in the front by the bay doors. The second variance being requested is to allow a 2-foot encroachment into the side yard setback along the southern portion of the property. In the SF12 district, 25 feet for allowable non-residential uses is the requirement. The setback on the southern end of the site is 23.25 feet, just shy of that 25 feet. So here's an aerial of the site in context with the surrounding property. And you can see Austin Elementary goes around it. The typical site has a 10-foot landscape buffer on the sides and rear perimeter. In this instance, the rear landscape width fluctuates between 8.86 feet to 9.39 feet, and the narrowest portion along the side is 6.68 feet to allow 5 employee parking spaces. There are 3 ornamental trees and 3 overstory trees being removed to construct the building. 6 overstory trees are proposed to be preserved, and 13 overstory trees and 9 ornamental trees are proposed to be planted. Overall, the site is less than 2 acres and is required to have 30% landscape area. They're providing approximately 40%, but are short 9 trees overall. Part of this is because they're trying to maintain the large visibility area in the front for the fire apparatus by not planting close to the driveway. In addition, the limited area at the rear makes it difficult to plant trees that won't end up extending into the drive aisle and scratching the fire apparatus with their large turning radiuses when they're pulling back into the bays. And it's worth noting that there are trees planted on the edge of the common property line within the school property that will provide screening as well. The third variance being requested is to allow for the landscape buffer as presented. As mentioned, the building itself is proposed to be approximately 11,994 square feet. The building is proposed to be a combination of mostly brown brick with smooth loaders buff masonry. The eastern facade facing Moore Road is proposed to have 2 large 4-fold doors at the apparatus base, a front door that will lead to a public lobby area, and transom windows above the 2 large bay doors. The north and west elevations are proposed to also have windows evenly spaced to allow for light. All elevations are shown to have transom windows for additional light. There is signage proposed for the front of the building facade. A sign is shown above each bay door. One says engine and the other says battalion. And above those bay door signs, a sign with the 12-inch pin-mounted letters saying Coppell Fire Department is depicted. A 7 to 8 foot pin-mounted aluminum number 5 representing the fire station with lighting behind is proposed to be on the front facade as well. Also, a 15 square foot surface-mounted aluminum fire station or department logo is proposed on the front facade. We're still having internal discussions related to putting the department logo or the station logo. The area of the signage proposed falls within the guidelines of the sign regulations. Here are renderings of the fire station. We sent out 13 notices within 200 feet. We received one within the 200 feet that spoke in opposition at the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings. Stated that this was a residential area. There was a possible potential decrease in property value, disruption of schools, questions why this location was chosen, mentioned that she has children and grandchildren, and these people, and there are people that actually pull in her yard when navigating people coming from the alley. We sent out 166 courtesy notices within 800 feet. We received one in opposition and one email in favor of the request at 800 feet. The one in opposition at 617 Raven spoke at the Planning and Zoning Commission. She stated that more road lanes are tight with bike lanes. More road traffic has increased due to the navigation apps trying to get to Cypress Waters. She pointed out that there are children biking, joggers, and people with strollers using the bike lanes. Said that there was a busy intersection at Sandy Lake and Moore, and also pointed out that the public notification was not large enough. We had another person that spoke during the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting questioning why we were locating at this specific location. And that came from a resident who's actually 3 miles away at 716 Westminster. So the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this request with the following conditions. 1, there may be additional comments during detailed engineering review. 2, a plat will be required. And 3, the PD conditions will be to allow parking in the front yard, to approve the landscape plan as presented, and then the third one will be to allow a 2-foot encroachment of the building into the side yard setback. And that concludes my presentation. We do have the applicant in the audience as well.
Would that happen to be the chief?
Deputy Chief, or Chief.
Just the opportunity if you had anything to say, not that we had any questions yet.
I thought you had a question. Is there a question for him?
Anybody have any questions for Matt? Councilmember Carroll.
Thank you, Mayor. Just real quick, I'm sorry, not for Matt, for Chief. I assume for Chief. Here's my only question is the bays they'll empty out onto Moore, and I know cars do line up for school,
Yes,
along Moore while they're waiting to turn into Austin. And I assume all those traffic concerns would get addressed, or so make sure the fire trucks could get out at the appropriate time and things like that. I guess we would address all that.
Yes, sir. There's some proposed signage on the road, and we're even considering some striping to do not block the area. I would also add that I actually worked in that facility when it was functioning without any of that, and there was some awareness training involved, but we never had an issue coming or going.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Nevels.
Hey, Chief, just a quick question for you, kind of along the same lines of Councilman Carroll. So obviously, the way the apparatus are lined up, they'll exit the facility directly onto Moore, but then there's the loop that comes around so the apparatus can come to the backside so they can be ready to deploy out, correct? That orientation? That return loop, is that part of the Austin Elementary pickup line and drop-off line in the morning?
I believe it's for the school buses.
Okay. That was my concern, was that the apparatus returning back to the station, if there's like lineup, kind of like a similar thing, but I'm just assuming that we've had those discussions with the district. We understand how to get the apparatus back in and we're good with that?
Yes, sir. We've had extensive discussion with the school district. There was an easement issue that we came to agreement on, and I've worked through all those details.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Yep.
Any other questions? We had no one signed up to speak for the public hearing, so Councilmember Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to close the public hearing and approve agenda item 11 with the conditions listed on the screen.
Thank you, and seconded by Councilmember Carroll. All in favor?
Walker, Hino, Smith, Carroll, Nevels, John, Hill, in favor, none opposed, the motion carries.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Chief. Item number 12 is a public hearing, so I open the public hearing and ask Mr. Steer to once again read the item into the record. Unless
Mayor, I've got some water this time.
I tell you what, why don't you let me do it? Consider approval of PD 316 MF-2 Roars Coppell Lot 2 Block 1 GTE Shared Services Center Edition, a zoning change request from HC to PD 316-MF-2, Plan Development 316 Multifamily 2, and land use map amendment from freeway special district to residential urban neighborhood to allow 217-unit, 4-story, age-restricted, 55-plus senior living facility on approximately 9.9 acres located on the west side of North Coppell Road and North Canyon Drive at the request of Roars Companies being represented by Blaze Bounds of Kimberly Horn. Mr. Steer.
Thank you. This property Okay, so I'm the one in charge of that, clicking that button. This property has never been developed. It's a two-part request. Zoning of the property to a planned development to allow for the use and development as presented. And then the second part is a change from freeway special district to urban residential neighborhood on the 2030 Comprehensive Master Plan. The site is 9.9 acres in size. Rowers is proposing a 217-unit, 4-story development consisting of 4 studios, 75 one-bedroom units, and 138 two-bedroom units. The unit count, you see there, that was the decreased. The unit count has decreased from 232 units presented at the Planning and Zoning Commission to 217 units, bringing the proposed density down from 23.4 units per acre to 21.9 units per acre. It would be 27.4 units per acre if the easement area is deducted. But officially, this is at 21.9 units per acre gross density. This is proposed to be age restricted to active adults ages 55 years and older. Project is 100% affordable. Those that qualify will need to have 60% area median income as defined by HUD. And I'll let the applicant speak to this in more detail. The proposed structure is set back 223 feet from North Coppell Road, 102 feet from Canyon, and 67 feet from the west property line. The typical MF2 apartment is required to provide 2 parking spaces per unit plus 1/2 space for guest parking per unit, which equates to 2.5 spaces per unit. They're proposing to provide 348 parking spaces, which amounts to 1.6 spaces per unit. This has actually increased from the 1.5 presented at the Planning and Zoning Commission due to the decrease in number of units. According to the applicant, this is higher than Rower's previously approved project in Wiley, Texas, which is currently under construction, that has a 1.26 parking ratio, and a project in Maple Grove, Minnesota, that has a 1.43 parking ratio. There's a drainage channel that's 45,072 square feet that will remain in place, and a 100-foot Brazos electrical easement, which is 86,404 square feet, that overlaps the drainage channel. The applicant has obtained permission from the easement holder to landscape and install a curvilinear sidewalk and dog park area within the easement. They've asked Brazos to consider accent tree plantings within the easement, but Brazos denied that request. The easement area, not including the drainage channel, is 55,000 square feet. In terms of amenities, Rower's proposing to have the following interior amenities: a theater, which is 840 square feet, a fitness center at 1,000 square feet, a community room, 1,030 square feet, a business center, 1,030 square feet, an activity room and library at 850 square feet, a multifunction learning center at 1,040 square feet, as well as on-site management and supportive services. After the Planning and Zoning Commission, Rower's added a 784 square foot community room. It's labeled Commons on the floor plan on each upper floor, satisfying an earlier request from staff for a community room on each floor. Exterior amenities are proposed to include a dog park, a putting green, and a pool with a grilling area. There are 67.8 caliper inches of proposed trees to be removed, or trees proposed to be removed. Given the tree preservation and landscape credits, no tree mitigation fees will be required. The landscape plans provided show that the site meets the minimum area requirements of 23%. Approximately 39% of the site is proposed to be landscaped. The drainage channel was not included in the landscape area calculations. The remaining area of the Brazos electrical easement, not including the drainage channel, accounts for 13% of the 39%, leaving 26% outside of the easement. All in all, the plan meets the landscape area requirements even without including the easement area. Rowers is proposing to plant 109 overstory trees, 24 accent trees, and the proposed trees in combination with the 12 existing trees meet the minimum site tree requirements. The building elevations and material board show a variety of materials and colors proposed for the building. There are two brick colors proposed. There's buff and red brown. There's a gray banding used for lintels and other accents. The decks, railings, and copings will be black. Additionally, there are charcoal and Arctic fiber cement panels and warm gray and buff fiber cement lap siding proposed. There will be a flat roof with black coping used on the parapets. You can see the top rendering is the south elevation view from Canyon. The middle rendering is the view from North Coppell Road, and the bottom rendering is the western side of the building that you would see from the 5-story office building. The covered parking will have a gray standing seam metal roof, and the pillars will have a concrete base. There's a dumpster enclosure that will have buff brick. It will be large enough for the generator to be included. There's a 60 square foot monument sign that was shown on Canyon Drive, which is 27 feet from the right-of-way at the main entry, and further details of that sign will be needed at time of permitting. So the second part of the request is the land use amendment. The 2030 master plan currently calls for this area to be Freeway Special District. The purpose of this designation was, quote, to provide areas within the community for conventional high-intensity regional commercial uses and office development dependent upon good transportation access to highway interchanges and frontage roads. These areas are primarily intended for medium to large scale developments, serving travelers and clientele from the region, and typically have high volumes of ingress and egress by vehicular traffic. Uses appropriate for Freeway Special District include hotels, multi-story office buildings, medium to large scale regional commercial uses, restaurants, and other uses dependent upon high volumes of vehicular traffic. Rower's request is to amend the future land use for this site to urban residential neighborhood, which allows for higher density residential uses that serve the needs of residents seeking alternatives to low and medium density single family detached housing. Although the urban residential neighborhood land use on the master plan calls for a mix of housing, with the majority being owner-occupied and not all rentals, this was the best match for the proposed use. 14 notices were sent out within 200 feet. We had 63 courtesy notices within 800 feet. And we had, as of this afternoon, or this morning, we had no written responses or calls. But after this afternoon, we have had a email that represented I believe 17 individuals, which I'll get into a little bit after I talk about the public hearing. So at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, there were 2 citizens that spoke. We had one at 525 Abbey Court within the 200 feet, and that one's shown as not in opposition, kind of undecided. And since this map was generated, they're actually opposed to it. They signed the petition in opposition. So that should show up as red. But they had stated that they wanted some things sorted out. Number 1 was the unit count. Originally, the proposal that had come in was 248 units. It changed to 232 at the Planning and Zoning Commission, and now it changed to 217 units. They wanted a traffic study. They said one of those needs to be done. Then he questioned why 4-story versus 3-story, and then questioned the density. I think it was because I had included the density of the site, the gross density, and then the net density without the easement. So at the Planning and Zoning Commission, we had 23.4 units per acre, and now we're at 21.9 units per acre gross density. The other person who spoke in opposition was located at, or lived at 716 Westminster Way within the 800-foot area. She wanted the number of notices that was sent out to property owners to be increased to include everyone that could potentially be impacted. Questioned if tax exempt, then we would bear the cost of services to those units. Questioned the impact on schools. Questioned the construction pollution related to drainage. Was concerned with the overuse of a single lane road generating noise. She was concerned about the land use change to allow for multifamily. And so subsequent to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, I sent her the revised plans and the memo. And since she's talked to her neighbors, and she just submitted a petition or letter in opposition. And this includes 6 property owners within 200 feet that are opposed, 5 included that are less than 800 feet that are opposed, and 6 that are greater than 800 feet that are opposed. And they're mostly Asbury Manor residents. And I'll let her read her letter during the public hearing. So on March 21st, 2024, the case failed by a 3-3 vote of the Coppell Planning and Zoning Commission. A 3/4 vote of council, or 6 out of 7, is required to approve the request. The following conditions are recommended if council decides to approve the request. One, there may be additional comments during the building permit and detailed engineering review. 2, a replat's required to be approved prior to engineering review and recorded prior to building permit. 3, park fees of $12.85 per unit shall be collected prior to plat recordation. 4, site lighting shall meet the City of Coppell requirements. 5, to restrict the residents within the development to persons aged 55 and older in accordance with the Fair Housing Act. 6, to allow for 1.6 parking spaces per unit. 7, to allow for 4 stories, which is 50-foot maximum height. Typically, 35-foot is your maximum height within the MF2 base zoning, and 2 stories is the maximum number of stories. Number 8, to allow for the balconies to have decorative metal railings and not be completely screened from view. 9, to amend the future land use plan from freeway special district to urban residential neighborhood. And 10 is an added condition after the Planning and Zoning Commission, after we analyzed the sidewalks in the area and the fact that there was a sidewalk that was going to be a dead-end sidewalk with this proposal. So until they eventually get connected, we had added crosswalks will be required to be constructed by the developer to connect the proposed sidewalk to the existing city sidewalk, with locations to be finalized during detailed engineering review. And that concludes my presentation. The applicant is in the audience and does have a presentation as well.
Staff, you have any questions for Mr. Steer? All right. What did I say?
You said staff.
Staff, I'm sorry. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Steer? Councilmember Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. Matt, I don't remember the exact words you used, and I don't want to rephrase it in a way that's inaccurate, but when you said that with respect to the urban residential neighborhood classification, you made some reference to was like the closest one that fit or something to that effect?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So within our comprehensive master plan, we have a number of land use categories,
Yes, sir.
and this would be the closest one that would fit their proposal.
Meaning that we don't have one that conforms precisely to this type of development.
Correct. Just because that one had mentioned the owner occupancy versus renter occupancy.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments by council? Does the applicant have any statements or comments he'd like to make? Presentation.
Yeah, we just have a quick presentation.
Let's see here. I'll trade you places.
Your name and address, please, sir.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Logan Schmidt with Roars Companies, 2 Carlson Parkway, Plymouth, Minnesota, 55427. We appreciate your consideration tonight. So Roars Companies is based in Plymouth, Minnesota. We were founded in 2012 and have been developing around the country since then. For the last 3 years, we have been developing in Texas and have completed 10 projects to date that are either built or under construction. So the site's at 700 Coppell Road. I won't go over a lot of the specifics that Matt covered in his presentation here. One thing I'd like to highlight is the traffic impact for what this would be versus what the site is currently zoned for. And this was prepared by our civil engineer based on ITE data. For what is allowed there currently under the zoning is that a 400,000 square foot office building could be built, and that would generate about 4,300 trips per day compared to what our project would provide, and that's more like 800 trips per day. And the trigger for a TI being required by the city is 1,000 trips per day. So this is 20% under that limit, which is why we haven't prepared that. Some local amenities, there isn't a ton of retail in the immediate area. So our plan would be to partner with SPAN to provide a shuttle service weekly that would make trips to the senior center and other areas in the community to allow for our tenants to get to the areas that they need to be and do their shopping, community activities and whatnot. Just a little bit of highlight of what the affordable housing is here. This was originally done under Section 8 of the tax code, where this was resident subsidized, where a tenant was given a voucher to live in an apartment. And, that individual would pay 30% of their income, and then the rest would be coming as a subsidy from HUD that would pay the difference in the rent. So if somebody didn't have a job, they wouldn't have to pay any of their income into that, and that would all be covered by this voucher. And that is not what this is. This is governed under the Section 42 tax code. It's developer subsidized. It's income-based housing that the rents are determined by HUD annually. And, that changes every year based on the area median income of the county. So there's 2 types of credits under this program. There's the 4% credit, which this project would fall under, and there's the 9% credit. And kind of the way that this financing comes together is with these 4% credits, we're able to apply to the state, and this is a federal subsidy, that comes in this form of this tax credit. And this typically it's large banks and institutions that invest in these 4% credits that provides most of the needed equity for the project. Additionally, we'll apply for tax exempt bonds through the state. And then those will be provided by, typically an agency lender like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or HUD. And then another component of this is that we would plan to partner with a nonprofit partner, and this project would be exempt from taxes, but there is a flexibility to enter into a pilot agreement with the city where, it's payment in lieu of taxes, where the city could be paid, the portion of the taxes that would be paid to them. In the event, if that wasn't in place, where they would get their fair share, but then the rest would be exempt. So that is an ability that there's, that's a program that, or an agreement we'd be willing to enter into, and that would be approved at a later date. This is really just the first step in the process to get the site zoned. It's the first step in it, and then, this exemption agreement, and then it's called a resolution of no objection that we would need to apply to the state. Would need to be approved by the council as well. So that would be, an approval down the road. So who can qualify for a 60% unit in Dallas County and in Coppell? This is set by HUD annually, like I mentioned. The income limits for we provide in studios, 1 units and 2 bedrooms. The income limits, vary from 43 to 55,000, and rents will vary from, roughly 1,100 to 1,400. And this is based on, the individual's actual income they receive. It's not based on their assets. So, if somebody's selling their home, it wouldn't be based on, that home sale. It'd be based on the actual money they're receiving on their tax return. So just some examples of who could live in these properties. It's a lot of working class individuals, teachers, people working in firefighters, those living on fixed incomes, living off their savings, those saving for when they need a higher level of care, could afford to live here. And since the last plan zoning meeting, we've got some more information on who would actually qualify in Coppell. And today there is, roughly 1,100 seniors that could qualify to live in this apartment today. And that's based on, age and income. So they'd have to be over 55, and they would have to be under these income thresholds. And then when you expand that to a 5-mile radius of the site, that number jumps up to about 3,400. So there's a very healthy amount of demand for this type of project in the community today. And just pulling from the Vision 2040 plan, there's a significant cohort of people in the 50 to 59 year age group. That represents roughly 20% of the population, which is continuing to grow. What this project would do is it provides an option for, those 55 and plus to age in place, to live in a nice community, to, no, they don't want to have the upkeep. They don't, want all the difficulties that come with the housing. So, gives the seniors access to safe and affordable housing, maintains and enhances housing quality and diversity in the city, promotes generational housing, allows people to sell their homes, stay in the community, allow that for another family to move in, and kind of just, like I said, promotes that generational housing, and, enhances and strengthens, the small town sense of community in Coppell. So, like I said, this would just be the first step in the project timeline. With this rezoning, next step would be the resolution of no objection and the interlocal agreement for the partnership agreements. And then, if this were to be approved, we'd probably be looking at a construction start sometime next year. And here's some renderings of some other properties we've done in the area. The Meridian Wiley project is under construction right now and is planned to open in October. And then, I think Matt covered all the community amenities. After hearing some of the presentations today, we might want to look at adding a pickleball court. So that's something we could certainly look into. And then just one last thing I'd like to highlight is that we will have an on-site tenant supportive service provider. They will be there roughly 80 hours a month. And they'll really do a survey for the community, really understand what they need, fitness programming, health and nutrition services, financial literacy, helping with their taxes and whatnot. So that's a service that will be provided as well. So just some of the unit finishes, these are going to be high quality apartments. It's not marble countertops, it's quartz countertops. We still have stainless steel appliances, resilient carpet and flooring, and washer and dryer. So I have a lot of high-end finishes. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions? Councilmember Hill.
So once you guys get the everything stabilized and it's filled up, do you typically hold the property, and how long is your hold period?
So one of the components of the program is that you typically have to hold this for usually around 30 years. So, we would be a long-term stakeholder in the community. We wouldn't be looking to flip this and sell it right away. We have an in-house management team that would be managing it. So we would be on site, for that full term and really, involved in the community.
But there's nothing that restricts you from selling it?
So there's going to be a land use restriction agreement that's put in place, and that has a compliance period, extended use period that runs for 30 years. Just with some of the elements of the financing, it's very difficult for, we would be the general partner, where for us to transfer our interest to somebody else, just with all the guarantees and everything we're providing to the tax credit investor, that's realized over a 15-year period. So, once you're on the hook, they don't want you to leave. So there's just a lot of components to where it's very difficult to sell that. So, but we would, regardless, plan to stay in the long term.
And then what is the guarantee that it's going to be 55 plus?
So that'll be part of the lure I mentioned as well, this land use restrictive agreement. That'll say that all these units have to be restricted to 55 plus. And, that would be recorded, by the county. And we would have to abide by that, and we would certainly enforce it. Otherwise, we would lose our tax credits, potentially, and that would be a very severe penalty that we don't want to do.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Hinojosa Smith.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask about, you had listed several other developments that you have. How many of those are already currently complete?
So we have property in San Antonio, property in Houston, and then property in Hutto that are all open.
Are all done, and then the other ones are still in process of being built?
That's correct.
Of the three that are already completed, what's the occupancy currently? Like, is it at 100%?
So the San Antonio and Houston projects, those are, stabilized properties. They've been open for a while.
Okay.
The Hutto project just opened earlier this year, actually, and is about 50% occupied.
Okay.
And we're looking to have that one filled by, I think this fall.
Okay. And I actually had a follow-up question to Councilmember Hill. So on the 55, I think that's what I wanted to also understand. As far as, like, when you say we'll enforce it, like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so it's it's governed by fair housing. So the individual has to be signing a lease has to be 55 or older, and every lease has to have that requirement. You have to verify your age. You have to be able. Otherwise, we can't lease to that person. And if we do, we could face a lawsuit. Like I said, lose our tax credits, and just face very severe penalties. So that's something we watch very closely. And based on some, we have a lot of these types of projects around the Twin Cities area in Minnesota as well. And I'd say the average age is more like mid-60s, is where things typically trend to. So there usually isn't a lot of issues with getting folks, right above that minimum. It's usually much older.
Right. And that 55 age limit is only for the person who actually signs the lease, not like there could be other people living in the unit that aren't necessarily over 55.
That's right. So there has to be one person over 55. There could be people younger than that, but it's just the nature of the requirement.
I just want to understand that. Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Councilmember Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your time and the presentation. Appreciate it. I actually wanted to follow up on what Councilmember Hinojosa Smith was just asking about. So, in regards to you've got the 55 plus on the lease. So, in theory, there could be people living in the units that are under 55, and that could include children as well, if they are part of the family unit. Is that correct?
In theory, yes.
Okay.
And, there's a maximum number of people who can live in, these, in individual units.
Okay.
And I believe that number is 2 per bedroom. So in a 2-bedroom, there could only be up to 4 people total.
Okay.
If there's anybody above that, it'd be a violation of the lease. So that's just something to note as well.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that clarification. I had just another question about the parking on that. So justifying we're at 2.5 basically, and you guys are at 1.8?
1.6.
1.6, sorry. I want to make sure I get my numbers right. So, in bringing up that map of the, amenities and the, in the area, you kind of see the QT is like the closest thing there, and everything else typically would probably require some sort of driving. And I saw the proposal to work with SPAN. That's 3 times a week. So I would imagine that there would be a lot of driving involved with being there. And I'm trying not to speculate too much, but how do we know that that's enough parking? And if there's not enough parking, what does that look like if that parking does become critical?
Yeah, and I would say that just with the 55 plus demographic, there's going to be a lot less cars than there would be with the family. And then with, especially we don't have any 3 bedrooms, we don't have any 4 bedrooms, where you generally get more cars per unit when you have the bigger bedrooms. And, we are parking most of our family projects in this area as well. So we've, like I mentioned, the project in Hutto, that's 300 units, and we have 450 parking stalls for, a community that's largely 2 and 3 bedrooms. And we, I know it's not stabilized yet, but there seems to be ample room for, for the rest of the people to live there, for the cars for the guests, for the residents living there on a family community. So this is a ratio we feel very confident in, especially with the 55 plus demographic. I'd say if we got to the point where it became an issue, in the very unlikely event of that, we would reach out to the, office building that has a large parking lot across, just across the way there, and see if we could enter into some agreement to have some shared parking in the worst case. But I would say that's an unlikely event.
Understood. Okay, thank you. Mayor, I want to make sure, I do have a couple more questions, but I don't want to hog the mic if anybody else has anything.
Go for it.
Okay, all right, thank you. In the list I saw there was a list of amenities there. Commercial kitchen, is that one of the amenities at all?
So it wouldn't be we wouldn't be providing on-site meals, or, there's not a level, it's all independent living. There's not a care component with the apartments, but we would have a community kitchen that would have, like a warming drawer, microwave, folks could host events there. It's not intended to provide, long-term meals for everyone. It's really for convenience. And, another thing we could add in is just like a mobile mart where, snacks, vending machine type stuff, or grab and go that we could have there as well.
Understood. And you kind of bridges something else. So level of care for senior housing. So this is just residential, independent living, no other levels of care provided in this in this development?
That's right.
Okay.
Yep. Just the supportive services I mentioned before, but no in-unit care or anything like that.
The last question I had was, you said that there was some sort of like partnership with a nonprofit that would be required. So who would own the property? Like, what does that ownership look like? Is it the nonprofit? Is it, is it Roars? What does that look like?
So the way, this is a very common structure with these types of projects around the state, where the nonprofit and entity related to that nonprofit would actually own the land, and then it would lease it back to the ownership, the Roars ownership, where, for a 99-year period, very long-term period.
Okay. So, and I'm assuming that's how you are able to, because you said in the presentation that's how you would get the credits, or so I just want to make sure I understand the ownership and what that looks like. So
that's right.
Okay, thank you.
Council, any other questions? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to clarify, you talked about 2 person per room, right? So in other words, if you had 2 bedrooms, you're talking about 4 people.
Max, yes.
Right. And out of the 4 people, only one has to be 55. correct? So the
That's
rest
right.
could be younger. And then you also mentioned about you expect a lot less cars because they're going to be 55 plus. But what about if it happens where there's one 55 older and the rest are younger and they all have cars?
In theory, that could happen. I would say it's very unlikely. And just with the
Why is
likely
that?
average age.
Why is that unlikely?
With the average age of, the folks living here, probably in the mid 60s, it's likely, 2 people max. And, in the communities that we've seen like this, there's not a lot of other people living in these units other than, the folks who are over that age.
But it wouldn't stop me from, if I'm over 55, signing the lease and then have the rest of the 4 people as my family living there that are under 55, right? And all have cars.
That could happen, in
Okay.
theory, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Council, any other questions? Thank you very much. This is a public hearing, and we do have a number of people that have signed up to speak. We'll start and go down the list. I believe we have about 6 people. Mr. Scott Schweib. If you would, please state your name and address for the record.
So it's Scott Schwob, and I live at 259 Stanton Court here in Coppell. I'm the owner of this 10 acres. I've owned it for close to 10 years now. I've been a resident of Coppell for almost 20 years. It's been for sale almost since I originally purchased the site. Originally, we had planned to develop an office building for my businesses. And then during the pandemic, the slowdown, the excess office space that was created, we decided to lease an office here in Coppell, and we moved over off of Lakeshore. But I just wanted to give my experience from having this property for the last 9 or 10 years. And the majority of the interest is for multifamily apartments. I have had 0 interest for office. I have had some interest lately for churches and some other athletic facilities, outdoor athletic type facilities. Be a great cricket court type facility. But of the interest that I've had, and from my experience being in Coppell and having aged parents, it seems like a very good fit for me. The traffic that they've indicated, the traffic studies are, indicate that this is one of the least impactful amounts of traffic for the uses that this site is zoned for. The 2030 plan that Matt referenced was focused on high volume traffic areas. And if any of you guys have seen this site, this is not a high volume traffic area. It is, I think, was included in a larger area zoning back when they put this together. But in any case, I just wanted to voice my support for this project because I feel we need senior living. We need more housing for our seniors. And my understanding is that currently we're trying to get the zoning changed to senior living multifamily. And correct me, Matt, if I'm wrong, but my understanding is also that the affordable part of it is not necessarily to be determined right now. This is the zoning change to allow multifamily senior living. So if I'm incorrect, I guess somebody could explain that process perhaps for the benefit of the other people that are here. But of all the uses, of all the interest I've had in the last 9 or 10 years, I feel like this is one of the better uses for that site. Thank you. And thank you all for your volunteering for this wonderful city.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Hemant Goyat. And I probably butchered your last name, and I apologize for that. So your name and record for the
Sure.
address.
So for the record, this is Hemant Goyal. I am a resident of the 525 Abbey Court, which is within the 200 feet circle. I am opposing the construction of the multifamily proposed 55 plus community for obvious reasons which do not merge well with the fabric of Coppell as a city. And I will let my neighbor Malibala talk to it because we have gathered all the thoughts and put it in a formal letter and submitted it to the council as well. And I think that's it. But I wanted to thank the council for asking the right questions. And a lot of these questions seem to be just about gaming the system, pretty much on how a 55 plus community can be used to lease out to anyone pretty much who can come and live there, as well as the builder. They have been building, they said they have several developments, but only 3 have been completed, and that too in a very recent time frame of probably a year. So there's no long-term history of actually these things operating and being successful over 5 to 10 years. But that being said, I'll let the rest of the time be used for Manibala to put her thoughts in. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Bharat Shah.
They're all yielding.
Can I yield my time to her? 603 Westminster Court.
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
Name and address, please.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your time. And I know pickleball really was the main centerpiece, so thank you for your patience staying here. And thank you for the owner who also talked about the reality. So I have a prepared speech, but I just want to make a 1-minute comment so that the owner of the site understands our spirit. Based on most of us in this community, we are 66 homes. Most of us are immigrants, and we are we're all professional, and we are highly family oriented. So we love the idea of 55 plus senior living, right? So we all agree that that is something that Coppell needs. However, when we heard the proposal and when we looked at the details, we have some concerns, and that's what I would like to bring up. And most of it that council already brought up. Just to be precise in what I want to say, I'm going to read the letter, and then any free-form comments, I'll add it. So thank you. All right. So I'm going to read letter to letter because I spent a lot of time writing it. So this is with respect to the project PD 316 MM2 plan development. As we understood that it's 2 proposals in one. So we need some clarification, and we'll yield to that at the end of this. So thank you, council members. On behalf of Asbury Manor community, we are directly across from the site. Right now, it's a sleepy corporate park and apartments onto one side and that empty area. So 66 homes currently make up Asbury Manor. So we are writing this letter with an urgency that matches the gravity of our concerns. We are writing to express our concerns and opposition regarding the proposal to build the 55 plus community in our neighborhood. We're not opposed to the 55 plus, but we have concerns regarding how it's structured and what it means to our Coppell and our residents immediately. After thorough consideration, we basically believe that proceeding with this proposal will not be in the best interest for our community. We believe it would not only undermine the essence of our community, but also distresses its well-being. We'd like to outline these key points. First one, traffic turmoil. Our neighborhood is already burdened with traffic congestion, particularly on single-lane roads, North Coppell Road and Canyon Drive. Introducing a densely packed 55-plus community would exacerbate this issue, leading to heightened traffic congestion and potentially compromising the safety of residents and students walking to and from the schools. The construction phase is bound to create major inconvenience and disruptions. Even though it's temporary, we just wanted to highlight to school traffic, potentially compromising the safety and efficiency of daily commutes for both students and parents. On this, I also want to add one thing. There were traffic studies that were shown 804 versus 4,300. This is brand new news, so I just was doing some of the calculation. The 4,300 that is projected is for a commercial or a corporate site where you would have only 8 to 5 traffic Monday through Friday. We are talking about increased traffic 24/7, 365 days a week, and it's a single lane road, and we are all parents. We've walked our kids to school. Our kids have grown, but a lot of people who move into Coppell, who are aspiring Coppell residents, go into that apartment complex behind us, and we see at least 20 to 60 kids getting into schools every morning while we walk. So that's a real concern for us. I know it's single lane, and you may think that it's not a big impact, but just, I would invite all of you to just walk when it's a school day to see how it's like at 6:30 in the morning. Next one, elevated pollution levels, right? This community would lead to an increase in pollution levels within our neighborhood. Factors such as noise pollution from emergency vehicles and disturbances during the night and significantly disrupt the peace and tranquility of our residential area. Moreover, the temporary construction activities associated with the development pose an additional burden, contributing to air and noise pollution, further deteriorating our living environment. We need to understand how the runoff from the construction and additional aspects of how that site will be managed. This was a real concern for us. We just spent last year $30,000 worth of our community HOA fees to have a canal that runs through our neighborhood dredged and have 30 or 40 tons of rock laid in place, because across from us they built the corporate park. All of the runoff came into our channel, and it had about 6 or 7 feet worth of grass, and God only knows what, where we saw turtles, we saw snakes. So we just cleaned it up. Now, additional pollution is something that we will need support, and then I don't know if that is fair to us as a community. Then the third thing is about parking predicament. I think I'm very grateful that all of you latched on to the whole 55 plus and the number of parking spaces, but I'm going to read the statement. This is a big issue for us. The proposed community only accounts for 1.6 parking spaces, but it falls short of the prescribed 2.5. Another thing that suggestions to go...
Ma'am, you're at your 5-minute limit. Could you go ahead and finish up?
Sure. May I borrow some of the time from the other folks who've signed up?
We've still got a number of other speakers signed up.
Okay. So please give me 3 minutes. We waited very patiently. All of them have also signed up to speak. I can hand it off, but let me finish. What I wanted to talk about is the parking predicament. Even if there is a proposal to go get a future agreement when the need is there, that is not very comforting, and it needs to be a long-term arrangement anyway, and we don't know if the corporations will actually enter into any kind of agreements with this proposed developer. So that's a big concern for us. And then the public services, they're asking for tax exemption. We are totally okay with a 55 plus residential area, but with the tax exemptions, you are saying it's not only us.
You need to
wrap up? Okay, so let me just say one more thing, and thank you guys. I hope this letter gets to you all so you get to read it. So the only thing we wanted to say was, we respectfully urge you to reject the proposal to build this 55 plus community in our neighborhood. Instead, we request you to explore alternative solutions that resonate with the needs and characteristics of our community. Thank you for hearing our collective voice today. And then we stand unified in this opposition, but we entrust that you will accord due diligence to our concerns and act in the best interest of the beloved neighborhood and the city of Coppell. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Mr. Jack Henderson. And Jack, I have to apologize. I completely missed your request to speak on a previous public hearing. I wish you would have said something. I would have certainly let you go up. The paper was under another one, and I apologize. You're going to berate me later, aren't you?
No, I was raised well not to disrespect our elders or correct them in public. So, I'm here tonight.
Name and address, sir, please.
Dr. Jack Henderson, 617 Feather Lane here in Coppell. To the mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, to the city management. My concern, this caught my attention because any tax exempt status on any construction, anything else, always gets my attention if the word perpetuity is attached to that. Also, government entitlements subsidies tend to go away. And if you build something with those long-time plans, what will happen, sometime the city, the local entity gets stuck with continuing that. I'm here to ask you not to approve this request. And I get to interact with seniors on a regular basis. None of them are expressing any desire to move into any multi-story building. As a matter of fact, discussion generally centers around going from two-story building to single-story homes. So they are downsizing. I urge you, just like you did not approve the residence for seniors under the DART rail tracks, not to approve this multi-story request and saddle our young people with an infusion of supplemental funds that they would need to pay through taxes and burden our young people with this burden, with this forever burden of debt. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Manny Janalagata.
That was me. That was me. I spoke.
That was you.
Yes, thank you.
The next speaker is Sandy Meyer.
Oh, may I finish my 2 points, please?
Under the name, since you can, yes, Manny is up here on the list.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so there were 2 points that I missed. And thank you, Mr. Henderson, for your support. So I talked about strain on public services that Mr. Henderson eloquently said. So I'll just talk about the building height exception. The proposed 4-story structure towering 50 feet starkly deviates from the MF2 recommended guidelines of 35 feet for 2-story buildings. I understood as 3-story when I talked to Matt, but he said 2-story today. So why are we going to 4 stories? This exception could negatively impact the aesthetic appeal of our neighborhood and disrupt the existing architectural harmony. Then this is important, and Mr. Henderson said it very eloquently. See, widening income disparity. The income limit proposed for these residents of 55+ communities starkly contrasts with the median household income of Coppell residents. The proposed income limit for residents of the 55+ community is substantially lower, 43K to 55K, than the median household income of 143,000 of Coppell residents. This significant income disparity raises concerns about the compatibility of the proposed community with the socio-economic fabric of our neighborhood. Thank you. Those were the other 2 points I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you for being patient. All right, Council. We've heard from staff. We've heard from the applicant. We've heard from citizens. It's time for you to comment. Anybody have any questions for anybody or any thoughts you'd like to bring forth? Councilmember Hill.
Yeah, I think the citizens of Coppell have made it quite clear about their lack of appetite for high-density housing, especially a $40 million project not paying any property taxes. The 2030 master plan has this area appropriately designated freeway special district. Urban residential neighborhood is not in the highest and best use for this parcel, and for this reason, I cannot support the zoning change to PD multifamily 2.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, we've heard a lot of reasons why people don't want this here, but because this is a land use hearing, there are certain reasons that I cannot support it that are distinct to the fact this is a land use submission. I think the 21.9 units per acre is simply too dense, particularly as it lies immediately west of a neighborhood, a single-family residential neighborhood. I think the 50-foot maximum height is simply too tall. I mean, on a normal summer afternoon, I think the sunset would start at about 5 p.m. for that neighborhood. And I can't support that height in relation to simply across the street from the neighborhood there. I think the 1.6 parking spaces per unit is too low. Active living, by definition, implies that the seniors will be driving where they're going. I don't particularly put a lot of credibility into the traffic study that projected 4,300 trips for that property on a commercial usage. And whatever it might be, I think a 4-story, 50-foot tall active living facility is going to generate far more traffic than that area should sustain. I also think that it's inconsistent with our comprehensive plan. The fact that we're having to try to shoehorn it into the urban residential neighborhood classification shows that this wasn't something contemplated as an appropriate land use for this community when we laid out the comprehensive plan, and absent some amendment to that plan, I don't think this is an appropriate use at this particular location, in this particular community, next to this particular neighborhood. So I'll be opposing this.
Thank you for your comments. Council, I do have a couple of comments before we proceed further. As you may remember, this was denied by the Planning and Zoning, and therefore that requires an automatic supermajority as required by the city charter. There are 6 of you here tonight. A supermajority of this council is 6 members, so a unanimous decision would be required to pass this one tonight. Do you have any other comments tonight?
I just have one question.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one question for Matt. Matt, if there's actually 4 individuals living in the apartments, right, what would have been the maximum parking spaces that would have been required? Do you know offhand?
I do not know offhand, and I'm not good at math when I'm in front of.
I wasn't trying to put you on the spot. Sorry.
Sorry.
But it would be a lot more than what we
yes.
currently propose, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Council, seeing no other comments, we'll accept a motion. Councilmember Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to close the public hearing and approve agenda item 12 with the conditions that were listed.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second? Mayor Pro Tem John, seconded. Is there any further discussion on this item? All right, all in favor?
Opposed? Walker, Hinojosa Smith, Carroll, Nevels, Junn, Hill, and opposed. The motion fails.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the citizens and the applicant for your time tonight. We appreciate it very much. Item number 13 is a public hearing.
I can read this one. I think I'm okay.
And let's see. So I will open the public hearing. Do you want to flip to see who reads this one into the record?
I can read it.
Are you okay now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir. This is item number 13 this evening's consideration of text change amendments to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 12, Zoning, Article 30, SUP of the Code of Ordinances by amending Section 1235 SFED of said chapter and article by amending uses to include a charity house or transitional housing, amending Section 1236, Single-Family 18, Single-Family 12, Single-Family 9, Single-Family 7, to include a charity house or transitional housing, amending Section 1213A, Historic of said chapter and article to add charity house or transitional housing as a use when part of a single-family residential development or mixed-use development, except when part of a live-work unit, and to amend Article 42 Special Definitions to add a definition of charity house or transitional housing and authorizing the mayor to sign. Staff received an inquiry as to where charity houses are allowed, and this use is not currently listed in the ordinance. In consultation with the city attorney, staff is recommending defining and allowing for this use within single-family structures, provided a special use permit is obtained. This is similar to the ordinance for lodging houses or short-term rentals that was approved in 2023. The proposed changes would provide a clear definition of charity houses and where they would be allowed, provided a special use permit is obtained. The SUP process allows for more public involvement, requires notification of property owners within 200 feet of the property in question, and then a courtesy notice for those property owners within 800 feet of the property, and a public hearing at the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council meeting to ensure compatibility with the neighborhood in which it's located. The proposed definition reads, charity house or transitional housing shall mean short or long-term temporary occupancy of a single-family residential structure, uncompensated or de minimis fee for persons that are sick, very poor, homeless, or have special needs or disabled. This definition does not include assisted living, group homes, halfway house, or other type of temporary house licensed under state law or defined in the Code of Ordinances. Similar to STRs, these residential districts were chosen because they are single-family detached units and are not attached. This provides the neighbors with some separation from the proposed uses and transient nature of the charity house use. We've included them within the SF18, SF12, SF9, SF7. Previously, the SFED was shown. Those all require a special use permit, as well as the historic district when part of a single-family residential development or mixed-use development, and that does not include live-work developments. So the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the charity house or transitional housing text amendments, and Bob Hager, our city attorney, drafted the definition and ordinance. And did you have anything to add to the presentation?
Yes, and for the benefit of the public and to remind the council, what we were trying to do is we had some inquiry about charity housing, and then Matt and I got together, as we explained to you during work session. And one of the things that we thought we needed to have a definition for charity houses to accommodate things like Ronald McDonald House, people coming. We are close to the airport, so there may be people that want to avail themselves that come into town for special needs for medical. People travel from other places in Texas by car and stay. When my wife was ill, I went to Houston several times, and so it's to accommodate someone that may have to come in town for treatment purposes. It accommodates some church and benevolent societies that sponsor these, again, like the Ronald McDonald House. I'm aware of some that are available to cancer patients that come in town for infusion services. And so we think they need to be treated respectfully, and we want to make sure that we protect the integrity of our homes in our residential community. And that's been very important to us. We thought that this kind of regulation is one to determine whether they're appropriate for the neighborhood. If it is decided by this body that it was appropriate and they gave a special use permit, and you approve this definition tonight, we'll bring back some regulations for you similar to the long-term rental registration and the short-term rental registration to ensure that the homes meet all the conditions that you set in a special use permit, as well as provide a safe environment for the people that are utilizing these facilities, and more importantly, for our neighbors. So with that, I'd happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
Looks like everybody's good, sir. I take it you were speaking as an applicant, sort of, kind of?
Yeah, I'm supporting the applicant.
Okay. We did not have anybody signed up to speak on the public hearing. So council, questions for Matt or Mr. Hager? I've actually got one. What was the thought process on the live-work separation? I noticed that what was the thought there?
Well, mainly the mixed use does have the fire separation between the residential component and the business component, and the live-work would mean you were living there with someone else coming in. So that wouldn't have the separation.
I got it. Okay, thank you. I did not see that connection, but thank you very much. Council, any questions for anybody? Seeing none, I will accept a motion. Councilmember Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd close the public hearing and move for approval of item 13 on the agenda as recommended by staff.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councilmember Hinojosa Smith. All in favor?
Walker, Hinojosa Smith, Carol, Nevels, John, Hill, in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Item number 14 is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing and ask Mr. Wayant to come forward. I am consider approval of an ordinance of the City of Coppell, Texas, readopting and ratifying and republishing and extending Chapter 9 of the Code of Ordinances, Article 919, Youth Camp Program Standards of Care, and authorizing the mayor to sign. We see this one every year, so please explain to us again why we keep doing this.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Daniel Wyatt, Recreation Coordinator at the Corps. So again, as you mentioned, this is routine in nature as an annual review process in order to be exempt from state of Texas licensing, process for youth camps. Camp Do It All is not licensed by the state of Texas, so we abide by the standards of care that are put in place for municipal recreation programs. This year, there's no changes that have been made to the standards in which we are asking approval. The program is offered for children 6 to 12 years of age, and it's held during all the major Coppell ISD holidays. So we have summer, Thanksgiving, winter, and spring break currently. Those total about 15 weeks out of the year, and we have around 1,600 children be served during those times. During the holidays, we usually have those at the Corps, and in the summer, we hold it at a local elementary. This year is Austin Elementary, and we get positive feedback throughout the whole community, and it's highly sought after. A lot of great amenities we offer, and tonight we are recommending approval for the Camp Standards of Care of 2024 and asking approval for the ordinance. So thank you.
Thank you. Council, any questions for Mr. Wyatt? Oh, we're not there yet. All right, this is a public hearing. We did not have anybody signed up to speak tonight. So, Councilmember Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to close the public hearing and to approve agenda item 14 as presented by staff.
Thank you, sir. Second by Councilmember Hill. All in favor?
Walker, Hinojosa Smith, Carol, Nevels, John, Hill, in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 15 is our city manager reports with project updates, future agendas, and direction from work session. Tonight with us, we have Mr. Kent Collins.
Thank you, Mayor. Brief report. South Belt line, for those that have been itching to use it, it's open. Lanes opened Friday morning after a small ribbon cutting ceremony that was also safe for all involved.
That was a fastidious ribbon cutting.
It was small but safe. DART is currently working on the Freeport Parkway crossings. They have completed the crossing on Royal. Woodhurst, our contractor, is continuing to install utilities, working towards Pond Park, and will begin paving in that section within the next month or so. The hangar at 500 Southwestern, the remodel is complete, and the resident companies are beginning to move in, so that's exciting. Village Parkway ground storage tank rehab. The interior coating on the large tank is complete. And it's curing, so we anticipate filling that tank back up late next week. Neighbors Helping Neighbors, real quick, is 8 a.m. to noon this Saturday. I apologize if I'm stealing anyone's thunder with this report. The most recent count is we have 45 projects and 188 volunteers. We could still use a few volunteers, so if anyone's interested, go to www.coppelltx.gov, and there's a scroller across the top where you can go and register. Fun Food and Grooves is Friday, April 12th. Come out to the Coppell Arts Center, 5 p.m. The food will arrive. We have Waffle Olicious and Tacos, Bites, and Beats, again at 5 p.m. And then the band Elevation will start playing at 5:30 p.m. That concludes my report.
Well, thank you. I'm going to get to X some off here. The only thing I have on item 16 is mayor and council reports is early voting starts Monday, April 22nd at Town Center. Included on the ballot is Coppell's special election for Place 5. Election day is May 4th. The other thing is I am actually looking forward to Neighbors Helping Neighbors this Saturday, and please, like Mr. Collins said, if you're wishing to volunteer, please sign up. Item number 17 is public service announcements concerning items of community interest with no council action or deliberation. Councilmember Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick one. I just wanted to give a shout out to the Coppell Community Experiences Department for the Coppell Total Eclipse of the Park event that happened yesterday. It was just a fantastic event. I've got such positive feedback from citizens about that. So I just wanted to give that department just some kudos on a job well done, and thank them for all they do for the community.
Thank you. And I'm still curious, did we ever get an estimate on how many people were out there?
Haven't heard anything yet, but it was a good amount of people out there. So,
it was great. First one I'd ever been through, and it was great. All right,
they're doing it again next year, Mayor.
Sign up on a proclamation. We'll see what we can do. Item number 18 is necessary action from executive session. There was none, so therefore, there being no further business before this council, we are adjourned at 9:45 p.m.